Hey, this is Tayla Parx, and you're tuned in to BuyTalong.com.
The track could say I miss you, but I don't. Oops, so well. Oops. I ain't got no time to entertain your love if you can't tell. Don't go throwing all your sorries down my wishing well. Cause I wish you well, farewell.
I can't even believe it. First of all, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of all of your work. You know, behind the mic and behind the pen, everything. So you're amazing. But a lot of people probably feel like, who is this girl? She kind of just popped up on Chris Brown's album. Like, how did she get there? So just kind of tell me, like, how did all of this start for you?
Well, man, it kind of the Chris thing was probably the most random out of all of them, because it was like an accident, because I was just writing for his album at first, and I started to notice that was happening a few times. Like, the artists that I would work with would be like, you should do this feature on the song, or you should do this help on my album, or something like that. And I'm like, okay. I was really careful to make sure to wait until the perfect timing to become artist Tayla. Right. Like, because right now I'm Tayla Parx and everything I do is tailor-made. So from the writing, if I'm writing for somebody else, you'll see like the hashtag tailor-made all the time instead of Tayla Parx, because that's just a product of what I'm making. I'm giving them a piece of me, And so it kind of just happened organically, and which is what I really, really wanted to focus on happening. I was just like, okay. Everybody else, all these labels and artists were pushing me to become an artist, and I was like, it's not ready yet, I'm not ready yet. And then it came a moment where timing and getting ready, I was like, okay, it's time.
Dope. Okay, so let's kind of line it up though, because we're skipping over like the important part. Like, did you wake up and then just was writing on his album? So how did all of where did you kind of get your foot in the door? How did that happen?
We'll take it back. Take it back. So, I mean, originally I'm from Dallas, Texas, and Debbie Allen has a dance academy. And I went there with my best friend one time. I used to have like 2 left feet. And I was like, I'm going to go to the dance class or whatever. And I was like 10 at this time. And she was like, Debbie Allen came to the studio one time, and she was like, does anybody sing though? I know it's a dance academy. And I was like, and everybody was like, Taylor! Oh, right. And I sang, and she was like, have you ever tried to act or anything? Because I have these shows that I put on at the Kennedy Center. And I was like, no, I'm not really an actress. I don't really do that. I've never done it before. She was like, well, how about you read this book to me and do it as you are every character. Do it like you were each character. And I'm very, very animated naturally. So I was like, I was doing my little thing. And she was like, how would you like to star in this production that I'm doing called Dancing in the Wings? And she used to have these huge galas so by the time I ended up booking that, did 2 or 3 shows with her. So by the time I was 11, I had already performed for like Diana Ross and Will Smith and Quincy Jones, all of these huge people that were coming to Debbie Allen shows. So then at that point, I was like, okay, time for me to move to LA. I'm 12 at this time, and I'm like auditioning, and my mom is sneaking me in auditions because I don't have an agent. And so she's like, hey, you sure you like acting still? I'm like, I kind of mess with it. Like, I'm down. And then she started to sneak me into auditions, so I got snuck into like Everybody Hates Chris and like Gilmore Girls and all this stuff. And eventually I had to get an agent, and I went into this Gilmore Girls audition, and they said, wait a minute, you don't have an agent? I'm gonna call up some right now. Word. And I was like, okay. And obviously I booked the part, and then I went into the agencies. I held the meetings and was like, yo, there's this movie that I haven't been able to audition for because I don't have an agent or anything. It's this movie Hairspray. And they were like, I'm going to call right now then. I'm going to call right now and maybe we can see. And obviously I signed to them because they were the ones that got me the audition. And from there, it was like I was wrapped up in acting world. Acting. And Hairspray was fun to me because I got to sing and act. Exactly. But it was like acting all the way until I did a little bit of college, and I turned 17, I went to college. And I was like, okay, maybe it's time, like, nobody wants to songwrite for me. Like, nobody wants to write songs for me, even though I'm like, I have a Grammy nomination now at this point, but nobody wants to write songs because I didn't have a record deal. And, meaning you wouldn't be getting really paid anything, or paid a lot anyway for, like, the people who don't understand it. But, like, we freaking, my dad was like, whatever, write your own stuff. You don't want to be one of those artists that depends on a writer anyway, do you?
Right.
Because what happens when you're not popular anymore and then you have nobody writing? I was like, you know what, Dad? Okay. You're right. You're right. So maybe I should just start to try to work on that. And so I started to write these records. And then 17 was when I had my first official placement, and it was with 7. And I had produced and I wrote it. And it was like, that was the beginning of saying, I'm a songwriter.
Right.
Like, and I'm a professional songwriter.
Exactly.
And from there, it was like 7 and Ariana and Chris and Mariah and Fifth Harmony and Rihanna. Like, it just kept going. I just wanted to get better and better and better. And learn. Because at that point, it wasn't a focus on being an artist eventually. Like, that wasn't focused. It's just, how can I become the greatest creator right now, whatever that means, whether it's in songwriting land or acting land or whatever. Let's figure out how I can be the best me possible before we say this is what I am.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, you named all these people you wrote for, at such a young age. How do you prepare yourself? Like, how do you go in and be like, okay, do you mentally prepare for the artist you're writing for, or do you kind of just, you write a song and you're like, oh, this will work for him, or this will work for her, or do you just, you kind of listen in and study the artist, or how do you do that?
It happens different every single time. Sometimes I go in knowing that, like, before I flew out here to New York, I was working with Mary J. Blige. And obviously she's lived a lot of things that I just haven't experienced yet. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of the artists that I write for, like from Mariah to Beyonce, like, all of these older people that I want to write for, when I first signed my publishing deal with Big John at Warner Chapel, he's just, one of the biggest publishers. He is so it's like, he was like, well, one thing that it's really great that you're young, but also it hinders you because you haven't experienced what you're writing, what you're trying to write. So I had to take it from a thing of like, I have to listen to everything and be a sponge in every single type of way. Like, be a sponge, like soak it all up, listen to people, and be able to take what they're saying instead of, because you have a lot of writers who just put whatever they're feeling on to the artist. Well, that's not writing out what they meant to say. That's just you giving them you. You know what I'm saying? And then you're gonna have every artist that you write for sounding like you. Right. And that's not. And
I know some songwriters like that. I can hear like, okay, that person wrote that.
I wanted to be like, okay, well, I think the thing that makes a great songwriter the thing that distinguishes a great songwriter from a good songwriter is being able to say, how was your day? And who are you loving? Who are you hating? And then really being able to say, now this is how I'm going to make that one little emotion relatable to the entire world. That's what I think is more important. And it's not from my day or whatever. And if a hit song is just something relatable. You know what I'm saying? We all have the same handful of emotions. You know what I'm saying? They're the same ones. We just feel in different ways, different situations.
And I mean, a lot of songs right now are talking about the same thing, but of course you twist the content a little bit.
Right. Exactly.
Make it
it's like the movies.
Your own. Exactly.
We watch the same thing over again, but we watch watching Harry meet Sally. We watch Mary meet John. And they maybe instead of meeting on the bus, they met in school.
Exactly.
And all of these different scenarios. That's what we do with songwriters is say, what are every different scenario that I can think about that everybody's gonna either feel now or gonna feel one day.
Yeah. And I mean, like, three Grammy nominations so far. I gotta keep saying it because I cannot believe it. It's so young. But what is your ultimate goal? Like, you've already achieved a lot. You've put yourself in a lot of vulnerable situations that helped your career. So what is like the end all be all for you? Like, or is there any?
I don't think I think it'll continue to evolve as I grow older and things change. Like, I knew that I was gonna eventually be an artist, but I knew that there was a timeline in which it had to happen. So I was like, well, until then, let me put this on the back burner right now, and let me just focus on this one goal for this next 6 months or year or two. And this is how I see my life planning out. And life obviously shakes things up every single time. Yeah. So from that day, I'm like, okay, well. Then I started to say, because it's more to me than just the music. I'm very like, even to the point where I'm putting on like writing camps and stuff, that no writer or like it's really rare.
Exactly.
That an artist or a writer or somebody is. I don't think there's been anybody my age to put on a writing camp though. But I'm so interested in also the business side and why we do this and what I want to understand mechanicals. I want to understand this. I want to eventually sign artists. I want to eventually have a hub and a label and all of these things that really says, okay, when I'm 50 years old, 60 years old, and I'm sat my ass down somewhere, I have an entire generation that I've helped build and groom and the next relevant artist for.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And even outside of that, movies, and then I found the dopest photographers that are now shooting for everybody, or I found the dopest producers that are now producing for not only me, but everybody, you know? Like, because that's how you're going to affect an entire
generation.
Like, that's how you affect a culture. It's more than just, it has to be more than just you. And for me, success has to be more than just me succeeding. It has to be me along with thousands and thousands and millions of others for me to really say success.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I mean, I relate to your mental 100%, you know, trying to affect the culture in a positive way, in a different way, for sure. So as an artist, what can we expect from you? Because I know you put yourself in other people's shoes, you know, or kind of relate to their situations. What is your situation right now? So, if you know, your EP is, you're working on it. So what can we expect from that?
Well, the thing about me being a writer is that I got to see everything. I got to see everything that I felt like every artist that I worked with was lacking, or everything that they had perfect, or every mistake that they made that they told me like, oh, make sure you avoid this when you do your own thing. I got to learn so much. So I was like, okay, I mean, I kind of know every female artist that's going to be coming out, or that the labels care about, or whatever, because they're asking me to work on them.
Right.
So I had to look at it of, where do I fit in here? What do I feel like is missing from the game? And that was, how can I find somebody who's extremely relatable? And I'm not a girly girl, right? I'm not completely like boyish either. Like, it's how can we find the middle ground to pop and urban, tomboy and girly girl? And I'm a walking contradiction, and I don't see an artist like that yet. To where it's like, there's millions of little girls or boys or whatever that can relate to being, I go out and I have fun, but I don't take it too far. Like, it's like finding the middle of Beyonce and Rihanna and saying like, okay, Rihanna is like, I do whatever I want to do, and Beyonce is like, I'm perfect. Right. You know? So where's the middle ground? Where's the middle ground? And it's not to say that my son doesn't sound anything like either of those two artists, but when I think of the different things that I respect about both of them, like I respect that Beyonce is so put together, and I respect that Rihanna can just be her. You know? Yeah. So how do we find the middle ground? And when you can write your own stuff, because I write 99% of my album and my EP is me. You know? And me in conjunction with amazing producers and songwriters that like I've been able to work with on other projects. But where do we find the middle ground in saying, how do I listen to a female artist? I know how Drake felt when he was riding his mom's car, when he was riding through the 6 with his woes, and I know his friends' names. I know the feeling, like all of these different things, and I know it only through his music. And I get that he's a rapper, because rappers do this way better than singers. They have 8 more bars to explain, you know? But how can we take...
That's interesting.
They have 8 more bars to explain, but how can we do that compacted and you still know that what kind of car I drive, and you still know the type of friends I hang out with and things like that, because I know him through his music. That was something so important to me, because that's what an artist is like. I know you through your music, like, and it's still sing-alongable. Like, how can I do that? I need to find a female artist that's not only singing about love songs and things like that, but it's like, I know her through her music, and I really like it, you know?
Yeah. So you want to be that artist.
That's what my album is. Like, that's what my EP is, and that's what everything is kind of evolved into. And it was like, I found exactly what I felt like was missing, and where I feel like this could be my lane. And it was naturally just, I woke up one day, I was like, oh, this is my sound. Like, I started noticing so many similarities and things like that. And I'm like, this is the message that I see, that I've kind of put out there subconsciously. And then when I go back and I listen to it, I'm like, okay, you found it. You figured out who you are as an artist, what you represent, and what you feel, how you feel like you could affect and be different from every other female artist, because it's the perfect time for new.
Oh yeah.
Like, we're exposed to so much. People really want to see something different.
Especially females right now in R&B. It's missing, like, you know. Oof. It's like a select few.
Yeah.
But if they last,
and that's the question.
Yeah.
And that's the question. Like, that's the question. Like, who's gonna be the next people that are gonna be around for the next 10 to 20 years?
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of fads, and that's because music is so diluted right now because of the internet. You know, we hear a new song every 5 seconds. Somebody's uploading something.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Somebody, and we're either hearing it on SoundCloud, on the shuffle list, coming after Kanye's new song. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was reading that interview, like, the song that plays after Kanye's Real Friends is blowing up. Just based off of the fact that it's just, you know, after that song, and it just comes up, and people would get exposed to it. But you couldn't do that 20 years ago, 50 years ago, or whatever.
It's just like, whatever the radio plays.
Whatever the radio plays, which was controlled. So now it's like, there's no controlling the music anymore. Like, it's very, very accessible. Yeah. So what are you going to come with that's going to make people turn their head twice and say, what?
Exactly. Well, we're definitely excited to kind of, you know, hear your music and hear what you have coming up. Obviously, the sky is the limit with you, and you know, you have definitely a plan that I think will stick for sure. So, about when can we?
So, give me in a few days. I'm going to be dropping one of my first records, and the entire EP and everything. Like, I plan on being ready to perform and everything around April or May. Okay. April or May, it'll be out, and my album will be ready around September. Like, before, you'll get everything. Like, but starting now, in the next week, you'll be getting music from me nonstop. I'll be dropping something like once a month, twice a month, whatever. And just, you know, keeping it going. And because I waited, so now it's like I have all of these records, and now it's like people are gonna be like, dang, now we can't get rid of her.
Word. I'm excited. Thank you so much for this. I'm excited that I got it first, you know.
Yeah.
But you're dope. Thank you so much.
For sure. Thank you.
Perfect.